Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of the UES Harmony, watching the debris field that had once been New Eden Colony. The wreckage drifted in space like broken dreams, each piece telling a story of lives cut short. 3 million humans had lived on that peaceful world just 48 hours ago. Now there was nothing but twisted metal and silence. "Admiral, the Galactic Council is requesting another diplomatic meeting," said Commander Rodriguez, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. "They want to discuss proper procedures for filing complaints against the Zephyrian Empire." Sarah's hands gripped the railing so hard her knuckles turned white. For 30 years, humanity had played by the Council's rules. They had been the galaxy's peacekeepers, the ones who rushed to help when disasters struck. Earth ships carried more medical supplies than weapons. Human diplomats were known across the galaxy for their patience and willingness to find peaceful solutions. The irony was not lost on her. Earth was classified as a Class 12 Deathworld, as one of the most dangerous planets in known space. Humans had evolved in an environment that would kill most galactic species within hours. Yet somehow they had become the galaxy's most trusted mediators and helpers. "Tell the Council we're busy," Sarah said quietly. Rodriguez blinked. "Admiral?" "You heard me, Commander. We're busy." The truth was, humans had always been holding back, not because they were weak, but because they understood the cost of violence. Every human carried the genetic memory of their homeworld's brutal evolution. They knew what happened when predators stopped showing mercy. Sarah walked to her ready room and activated the secure communication system. The faces of 12 other fleet admirals appeared on the holographic display. These were not the diplomatic corps officers who usually handled interspecies relations. These were military commanders who had spent their careers studying galactic warfare patterns, not to start wars, but to end them quickly if they ever began. "You've all seen the reports from New Eden," Sarah began. "The Zephyrians glassed the entire colony as a demonstration of power to show other worlds what happens when they refuse trade agreements." Admiral Volkov from the European Federation nodded grimly. The Council's response was even worse. They called it regrettable but understandable given Zephyrian cultural practices. 3 million civilians, and they treat it like a minor diplomatic incident. "What are our orders?" asked Admiral Okafor from the African Union Fleet. Sarah took a deep breath. The next words would change everything. "As of 0800 hours Earth Standard Time, the Terra Defense Force is implementing Protocol 7. The silence that followed was deafening. Protocol 7 had been written 50 years ago but never used. It was the plan for what would happen if humanity ever stopped being kind. "Are you certain about this, Sarah?" Admiral Zhang asked quietly. "Once we cross this line, there's no going back." "The Zephyrians chose this path when they murdered New Eden Colony," Sarah replied. "The Council chose this path when they decided human lives don't matter. We've spent 3 decades showing this galaxy our mercy. Maybe it's time we showed them why mercy was necessary." The communication ended and Sarah stared out at the debris field again. Somewhere in that wreckage were the remains of schools and hospitals, farms and theaters. Children who would never grow up. Parents who would never see their families again. Humanity had tried to be better than their violent nature. They had built a civilization based on compassion and cooperation. They had shared their medical knowledge freely, even with species that looked down on them. They had rushed to provide aid during natural disasters, asking for nothing in return. But the galaxy had mistaken kindness for weakness. Sarah activated her ship's communication system. Her voice would be broadcast to every human ship, station, and colony across known space. "This is Admiral Chen to all Terra Defense Force vessels. Effective immediately. We are transitioning from peacekeeping to active defense protocols. Our mission parameters have changed. We are no longer protecting the galaxy from threats. We are no longer serving as mediators in conflicts that don't involve human interests." She paused, looking at the memorial wall in her ready room. Photos of every human colony, every peaceful settlement that had trusted in the galaxy's civilized nature. "For 30 years we have shown this galaxy what humans can be when we choose peace. The Zephyrian Empire and the Galactic Council have decided that our peace is worthless. Very well, let them learn what humans become when peace is no longer an option." The orders that followed were unlike anything humanity had transmitted in decades. Fleet movements that prioritized strength over diplomacy. Weapons systems that had been kept in storage were brought online. Research projects that had been suspended for being too aggressive were suddenly given unlimited funding. Most shocking of all was the recall order. Every human ship operating under Galactic Council authority was ordered to return to human space immediately. No exceptions. No negotiations. The galaxy's emergency responders were coming home. Dr. Marcus Webb received the message while his medical ship was treating plague victims on a Rigelian colony. For 15 years he had traveled the galaxy providing free medical care to species that couldn't afford it. His ship's symbol, a red cross on a white field R, was recognized across 3 spiral arms as a sign of hope and healing. "Doctor, we have new orders," his communications officer said, her voice confused. "We're to cease all operations and return to Sol system immediately." "That's impossible," Marcus replied. "We're in the middle of a plague outbreak. These people will die without our help. The orders are marked Priority Alpha, sir. They're from Earth Defense Command." Marcus stared at the message. Priority Alpha orders had never been used in his lifetime. They meant humanity was either under attack or preparing for war. On the planet below, the Rigelians were already celebrating. The human medical ship had arrived just in time to save their world. Their children would live because humans had chosen to help instead of looking away. But those orders were absolute. "Prepare for departure," Marcus said quietly. "Send our medical data to the Rigelian government. Give them everything we have on the plague. Maybe their doctors can figure out a treatment." As his ship lifted off, Marcus watched the planet shrink in his view screen. The Rigelians were probably confused, wondering why their saviors were abandoning them. They would understand soon enough. The galaxy was about to learn that human kindness was not an unlimited resource. In the deepest parts of human space, automated systems were receiving new activation codes. Shipyards that had been building hospital ships and research vessels were quietly retooling their production lines. The blueprints they pulled from classified archives showed ships of very different purpose. These were not the sleek, efficient vessels humanity shared with the galaxy. These were ships designed by a species that had survived on the most dangerous world known to science. Ships built for a kind of warfare that the galaxy had never seen. Admiral Chen stood alone in her ready room as reports flooded in from across human space. The recall was proceeding faster than anticipated. Human ships, human doctors, human peacekeepers, all coming home. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when the Deathworlders stopped pretending to be civilized. For 30 years, humans had been the galaxy's immune system, fighting off threats and healing wounds. Now that immune system was turning around. The galaxy had taught humanity an important lesson about the value of kindness. It was a lesson the galaxy was going to regret learning. The Galactic Council emergency session was unlike any in their 1,000-year history. Representatives from 47 species filled the great chamber, their various forms of anxiety creating a symphony of clicks, hisses, and nervous gestures. Council Speaker Varth, a tall insectoid being from the Antares system, called for order with trembling claws. "We are here to address the sudden withdrawal of human forces from all Council operations. This unprecedented action has left 17 worlds without emergency medical support and 8 conflict zones without peacekeepers." The Zephyrian representative, General Kexta, stood proudly at his podium. His scaled hide gleamed under the chamber lights as he spread his 4 arms in a gesture of dismissal. "The loss of human support is minor. They were always the weakest species in the Council. Their technology is outdated, their ships are slow, and their soldiers are poorly equipped. We have done the galaxy a favor by showing everyone what happens to species that cannot protect themselves." Murmurs of agreement came from several delegations. The hegemony of SARS had always viewed humans as useful servants. The corporate collective had long wanted human trade routes for themselves. The warrior culture saw human pacifism as weakness, but not everyone agreed. Ambassador Tequila of the Wise Ones raised a tentacled limb. "General Kexta speaks from ignorance. My people have studied human psychology for decades. They do not withdraw from conflict. They prepare for it." "Prepare for what?" Kexta laughed, a harsh sound like grinding metal. "Their ships are built for rescue operations. Their weapons are designed to disable, not destroy. What could a species of soft-skinned weaklings possibly do to threaten us?" Tequila's black eyes fixed on the Zephyrian. "You have made the mistake of confusing choice with capability." 3 days after the recall order, Captain Lisa Park was watching her engineers work with an intensity she had never seen before. The UES Compassion had been a hospital ship for 12 years. Its massive bays were designed to treat thousands of wounded beings from dozens of different species. Now, those same bays were being converted for a very different purpose. The medical fabricators can be reprogrammed to produce ammunition, Chief Engineer Santos reported. The surgical robots can be modified for ship repairs and weapons maintenance. The patient quarters can hold 3 times as many crew members as we originally designed for. What about the medical supplies? Park asked. We're keeping the emergency medical bay intact. Everything else gets converted. Santos paused. Captain, these modifications, they're not temporary, are they? Park looked at the technical specifications on her tablet. Hidden in the ship's original blueprints were connection points and power systems that made no sense for a medical vessel. Unless you knew what they were really for. Chief, did you ever wonder why our medical ships had such powerful engines? Why our defensive shields could absorb direct hits from battleship weapons? Why our sensor arrays were more advanced than most military vessels? Santos frowned. I assumed it was for emergency response. Getting to disaster zones quickly, protecting patients during evacuation. Those were the reasons we gave the council. Park smiled grimly. The real reason was that we never built medical ships. We built warships with medical equipment installed. The revelation hit Santos like a physical blow. All of them? Every human ship in the fleet. We've been flying around the galaxy in vessels that could be converted to military purposes in less than a week. The council never bothered to do detailed scans of our ships because they trusted us. Park's smile turned cold. That trust is about to cost them everything. The conversion was happening across human space. Research vessels revealed hidden weapon mounts. Colony ships deployed military-grade shields. Even civilian transports began showing capabilities that made seasoned alien military analysts rethink everything they thought they knew about human technology. But the real shock came when the deep space monitoring stations detected new ships emerging. From human space. Captain Jara of the Andorian Defense Fleet was the first to see them. Her patrol ship was conducting routine border surveillance when her sensors officer made a report that changed everything. Captain, I'm detecting multiple human vessels approaching the border. Configuration unknown. Let me see. The holographic display showed 3 ships unlike anything in the known databases. They were sleek and predatory, built for speed and violence. Their hulls were a matte black that seemed to absorb sensor beams. Most disturbing of all, they were heading directly for Zephyrian space. Attempt communication, Jara ordered. This is Captain Mitchell of the UES Retribution, came the reply. The human's voice was calm, almost bored. We are conducting military exercises in international space. Please maintain your distance, Captain Mitchell. Your ships are not in our databases. What class of vessel are you commanding? There was a pause. Andorian Defense Fleet. You may log this as a Reaper-class heavy destroyer. Have a pleasant day. The communication ended. Jara stared at the display as the human ships moved past her patrol vessel. She had been monitoring human space for 10 years. She had detailed files on every class of human ship ever built. There was no such thing as a Reaper-class destroyer. The truth was slowly becoming clear across the galaxy. Humanity had not been building peaceful ships because they were peaceful. They had been building peaceful ships because they chose to be peaceful. Now they were building something else entirely. Admiral Chen stood in the command center of Luna Base, watching displays that showed the true scope of human military preparation. For 3 decades, human shipyards had maintained the capability to switch from civilian to military production. Research stations had quietly developed weapons technology that surpassed anything the galaxy had seen. Training facilities had produced soldiers who understood both human combat doctrine and alien military weaknesses. Admiral, the Wolves report they are ready for deployment, reported Commander Torres. Chen nodded. The Wolves were humanity's first openly military vessels in 30 years. Fast, deadly, and crewed by humans who had studied galactic military tactics not to join them, but to defeat them. What's the status on Project Revelation? The first phase is complete. Every species in the galaxy now knows that human ships were never what they appeared to be. Phase 2 begins when our intelligence teams release the military analysis files. Chen allowed herself a small smile. For decades, human observers had been embedded with every major military force in the galaxy. They had studied alien tactics, weapons, and strategies. The aliens thought they were training human advisors. In reality, they had been teaching humans how to defeat them. Admiral, Torres continued, we're receiving communications from 17 different species. They're all asking the same question, which is, what do we want? Chen looked at the star map showing human space. 43 colonies, dozens of stations, millions of lives that had trusted in galactic civilization, all of it protected by nothing more than alien assumptions about human nature. Tell them we want the same thing we've always wanted, she said quietly. Peace. The difference is that now we're prepared to enforce it. On the furthest edge of human space, automated systems were bringing new constructions online. These were not ships or stations. They were something the galaxy had never seen before. Artificial death worlds, combat training facilities that replicated the brutal environment of Earth, gravity fields that could crush most alien species, atmospheric processors that created toxic environments where only humans could survive, weapons testing ranges where the most dangerous predator species from Earth could be safely studied and replicated. The message was clear. Humans were not just from a death world. They could create death worlds wherever they went. Dr. Webb's medical ship had reached Earth orbit, joining hundreds of other vessels in the largest human fleet ever assembled. As he walked through the station's corridors, he saw humans he had never seen before. Not just doctors and scientists, but soldiers, engineers who understood weapons instead of healing devices, strategists who planned campaigns instead of rescue missions. Dr. Webb, a voice called. He turned to see Admiral Chen approaching. Thank you for responding to the recall order so quickly. Admiral, I don't understand what's happening. My medical supplies could have saved millions of lives across the galaxy. Why bring us all home? Chen gestured toward a viewport showing the fleet. Because, Doctor, we've learned that the galaxy doesn't value the lives we save. They only understand strength. So we're going to show them what human strength looks like when it's not tempered by mercy. Webb stared at the ships below. Medical vessels, research ships, colony transports, are all being converted into something darker. Are we really going to war? No, Doctor. We're going to show them what war looks like when humans stop holding back. There's a difference. As reports of human military activity spread across the galaxy, species that had never paid attention to the death world humans began to study their history. What they found was terrifying. Earth was not just dangerous because of its environment. It was dangerous because it had created a species that thrived on survival. Humans had not just survived their death world, they had mastered it. They had turned their planet's deadliest predators into companions. They had made tools from their enemies' bones. They had built a civilization in spite of disasters that would have ended any other species. And the first target was carefully chosen. Outpost Kexton was a small Zephyrian military station on the edge of their territory. It housed 300 soldiers and served as a supply depot for raids on neutral worlds. More importantly, it was isolated enough that help would not arrive for hours. Captain Mitchell stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching the Zephyrian base grow larger on his view screen. His ship was not alone. 2 other Reaper-class destroyers flanked him, their black hulls invisible against the star field until they were almost on top of their target. Sir, the Zephyrians are hailing us, reported his communications officer. Put them through. The face that appeared on screen was typical Zephyrian rescaled, reptilian, with 4 eyes that showed both confusion and growing anger. Unknown vessels, you are approaching a restricted military installation. Identify yourselves immediately or face the consequences. Mitchell smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. This is Captain Mitchell of the Terran Defense Force. You are hereby ordered to surrender your installation and prepare to be boarded. The Zephyrian commander's eyes widened. Humans? You dare threaten a military installation? We will destroy you. You're welcome to try. The communication ended. Immediately, the Zephyrian station's weapons came online. Particle cannons that could slice through standard ship armor began charging. Missile launchers swiveled to track the approaching human vessels. Mitchell watched calmly as targeting alarms filled his bridge. Defensive systems online. Return fire when ready. What happened next would be discussed in military academies for decades to come. The Zephyrian weapons fired first rear. Beams of energy hot enough to melt steel struck the human ships. The beams simply disappeared into the black hulls, absorbed by armor that had been designed by a species that understood energy dissipation on a molecular level. The human response was measured and precise. 3 ships fired once each. Not at the station's weapons, but at very specific points along its structure. The station's power grid died instantly. Emergency lighting flickered on, then died as well. Life support systems shut down. Communications went silent. In 30 seconds, a fully armed military installation had been reduced to a helpless metal shell floating in space. Interesting, Mitchell commented. The Zephyrians build their power systems the same way they build everything else, with lots of firepower and no redundancy. Commander, signal the boarding parties. The Zephyrian commander found himself staring at beings that did not match any description in his training manuals. These humans wore armor that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. They moved with the controlled grace of apex predators. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to be enjoying themselves. I am Commander Vextar of the Zephyrian Defense Force, he said, trying to maintain his dignity. Under the Geneva Conventions, I demand. The Geneva Conventions apply to human conflicts, interrupted the human team leader. Her voice was calm, almost conversational. This is not a human conflict. This is a human solution to an alien problem. The humans did not kill anyone. They did not torture prisoners or destroy equipment unnecessarily. What they did was far more unsettling. They studied everything. Human technicians took apart Zephyrian weapons with scientific precision, recording how each component worked. Human psychologists interviewed the prisoners, learning about Zephyrian military doctrine and cultural weaknesses. Human strategists mapped the station's defensive systems, identifying flaws that could be exploited at other installations. Most disturbing of all, they broadcast everything. Every species in the galaxy received detailed recordings of the engagement, the technical specifications of Zephyrian weapons, the tactical analysis of their defensive strategies, the psychological profiles of their commanders. It was not just a military victory. It was a complete dissection of Zephyrian capabilities, transmitted to every potential enemy they might ever face. Why are you doing this? Commander Vextar asked as he watched humans catalog his personal files. The human team leader looked up from a datapad. You wanted to know what humans were capable of when we stopped being nice. This is educational material. The second strike came 3 days later at a Zephyrian convoy carrying supplies to their forward bases. The convoy consisted of 6 heavily armed transport ships and 4 escort destroyers. It was considered a powerful enough force to handle any pirate attack. The human ships appeared as if from nowhere. Captain Sarah Kim commanded the UES Nemesis, another vessel that did not appear in any galactic database. Her ship and 2 others had been following the convoy for hours, undetected despite being only kilometers away. All ships, execute pattern Delta, she ordered. The attack was not a battle, it was surgery. Human ships moved with impossible precision, their weapons targeting specific systems with mathematical accuracy. The Zephyrian escorts found their engines disabled in seconds. Their weapons fell silent. Their communications died, but they were not destroyed. Zephyrian convoy, this is Captain Kim of the Terran Defense Force. Your ships are disabled but intact. Your life support systems are functional. You have approximately 6 hours of emergency power remaining. The reply came from the convoy commander, his voice shaking with rage and fear. What do you want? Nothing from you. We have already taken what we needed. Kim's voice was professionally polite. We have transmitted your location to the Galactic Emergency Response Network. Rescue ships should arrive within 4 hours, assuming they choose to come. The communication ended, leaving the Zephyrians floating helplessly in space. What they did not know was that the humans had done more than disable their ships. They had copied every file in their computers, recorded every conversation on their communication channels, and planted monitoring devices that would continue transmitting data for months. The psychological impact was immediate and devastating. Across Zephyrian space, military commanders began to question everything they thought they knew about their own security. If humans could appear and disappear at will, if they could disable ships without destroying them, if they could steal information without leaving a trace, then nowhere was safe. The third strike was the most audacious yet. Admiral Kexeval commanded the largest Zephyrian fleet ever assembled, 47 ships, including 3 dreadnoughts that had never been defeated in battle. The fleet was en route to attack a neutral world that had refused to submit to Zephyrian demands. They never made it. The human attack came not from space, but from within the fleet itself. Admiral, his communications officer, reported, voice tight with panic. We're receiving surrender demands from inside our own formation. What? That's impossible. The main view screen activated, showing the interior of what was clearly a human ship bridge. A woman in a Terran Defense Force uniform smiled pleasantly at them. Good morning, Admiral Kexval. I am Captain Zhang of the UES Phantom. We have been traveling with your fleet for the past 18 hours. Kexval's 4 eyes darted to his tactical display. It showed 47 Zephyrian ships in perfect formation. No intruders. No unknown vessels. You're lying, he snarled. Your sensors show what we wanted them to show, Zhang interrupted. Human ships have been using stealth technology that your species cannot detect. We've been watching your fleet movements, recording your communications, and studying your tactics since you left port. The Admiral's blood ran cold. If you've been here for 18 hours, why haven't you attacked? Because we wanted to see where you were going and what you planned to do when you got there. Now we know. Zhang's smile faded. You were planning to attack the Kepler colonies. 3 million civilians, including human refugees from worlds you've already destroyed. The Kepler colonies refused our trade agreements. They must be taught or they must be protected. What happened next would be replayed in military academies across the galaxy for generations. The Zephyrian fleet did not see the human ships until it was far too late. They appeared between the Zephyrian vessels like ghosts becoming solid, their positions perfectly calculated to create maximum chaos with minimum risk. The flagship's weapon systems died first, then the communications array, then the engines. One by one, each system failed as human weapons struck with impossible precision. But Admiral Kexval himself was not harmed. None of his crew was killed. They were simply left floating in space, watching their fleet dissolve around them. Admiral, Captain Zhang's voice filled the silent bridge. You have 2 choices. You can order your remaining ships to surrender, or you can watch us disable them one by one while broadcasting the entire engagement to every species in the galaxy. Kexval looked at his tactical display. Half his fleet was already dead in space. The other half was trying to fight enemies they could barely see. Ships that appeared and disappeared like nightmares. Weapons that struck from impossible angles. I surrender. Excellent. Your ships will be towed to the nearest neutral station. Your crews will be returned to Zephyrian space. Your weapons and navigation systems will be permanently disabled. The communication ended, leaving the Admiral alone with the wreckage of his military career. Across the galaxy, species that had never paid attention to human capabilities began requesting detailed tactical analyses. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in recorded history. Representatives from every major species huddled in groups, speaking in whispers that carried across the great chamber, like the rustle of frightened leaves. The air itself seemed thick with fear and uncertainty. Council Speaker Varth tried to maintain order, but his usual authority had crumbled over the past 2 weeks. We are gathered to address the human situation. In 14 days, Terran forces have disabled 47 Zephyrian military installations, captured 38 warships, and demonstrated technological capabilities that exceed our previous assessments by several orders of magnitude. The hegemony representative, a blob-like creature named Globnash, pulsed with agitation. How is this possible? Our intelligence services have been monitoring human space for decades. Their ships were medical vessels. Their weapons were defensive. Their entire military doctrine was based on peacekeeping. Perhaps, said Ambassador Tequila of the Wise Ones, your intelligence services saw only what humans wanted them to see. A holographic display activated in the center of the chamber, showing tactical recordings from the latest human engagement. The UES Retribution had intercepted a Zephyrian squadron of 12 ships. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds. Watch the energy signatures. Tequila continued as the recording played. Human weapons are not producing random destruction. Every shot is calculated. Every target is selected for maximum psychological impact with minimum actual damage. The recording showed Zephyrian ships having their weapons severed with surgical precision. Communication arrays were destroyed while life support remained intact. Engines were disabled in ways that would require months to repair. They're not trying to kill us, whispered the Andromedan delegate. They're trying to teach us. Teach us what? Demanded General Kexta, the Zephyrian representative. His scales had lost their usual luster, and his forearms trembled slightly as he spoke. That they could kill us all if they wanted to, Tekela replied quietly. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. For 30 years, the galaxy had assumed human kindness was a sign of weakness. Now they were learning it had been a choice that could be revoked at any time. We need to understand their technology, said the consortium representative, a mechanical being whose voice buzzed with electronic harmonics. Our analysis suggests they have been deliberately limiting their capabilities for decades. The display changed to show a cutaway diagram of a human medical ship. Red highlighted areas showed concealed weapon mounts, hidden armor plating, and power systems far beyond what any medical vessel should require. This is the UES Compassion, the consortium representative continued. Officially, it is a hospital ship with minimal defensive capabilities. Our deep scans reveal it could be converted to a heavy cruiser configuration in less than 72 hours. Every human civilian vessel in their fleet has similar hidden capabilities. Murmurs of disbelief filled the chamber. The corporate collective delegate stood, his insectoid features clicking with agitation. Are you suggesting they've been lying to us for 3 decades? Not lying, corrected Tekela. Simply not sharing the complete truth. There is a difference. The Zephyrian general slammed his fist on his podium. Lies, deception, hidden weapons. This proves humans cannot be trusted. We should form a coalition to destroy them before they become an even greater threat. The chamber erupted in chaos. Some species supported immediate military action. Others called for diplomatic solutions. A few, led by the wise ones, suggested that perhaps the galaxy should examine why humans had felt the need to hide their capabilities in the first place. But the debate became irrelevant when the chamber's main communication system activated without authorization. The image that appeared was of Admiral Sarah Chen, standing on the bridge of a ship that did not appear in any known database. Behind her, tactical displays showed real-time positions of every major fleet in the galaxy. Honored representatives, Chen began, her voice calm and professional. I apologize for interrupting your discussion, but recent events require clarification. General Kexta rose from his seat, his forearms spread in a gesture of rage. How dare you hack our communication systems? This is an act of war. Chen's expression did not change. General, with respect, everything we have done so far has been defensive in nature. We have disabled your military assets without causing unnecessary casualties. We have avoided striking civilian targets. We have provided medical aid to your wounded personnel. If this were an act of war, you would not be alive to complain about it. The general's scales flushed darker. Defensive? You have attacked sovereign Zephyrian territory. We have responded to Zephyrian attacks on human colonies. The destruction of New Eden Colony was not a defensive action. It was genocide. Chen's voice remained level, but there was steel beneath the calm surface. For 30 years, humanity has served as the galaxy's peacekeepers, medical providers, and emergency responders. In return, the Galactic Council has treated us as expendable. Council Speaker Varth stepped forward. Admiral Chen, humanity has always been a valued member of the galactic community. Your contributions have been appreciated. Our contributions have been taken for granted, Chen interrupted. When the hegemony poisoned the water supplies on 3 Andromedan worlds, human medical teams cleaned up the mess. When the corporate collective dumped industrial waste in neutral space, human ships contained the environmental damage. When the Zephyrian Empire began raiding independent colonies, human peacekeepers tried to maintain order. She gestured to something off-screen, and the display changed to show a long list of incidents spanning 3 decades. 43 separate genocidal actions by council member species against smaller civilizations. In every case, humans provided aid to the victims and attempted to mediate peaceful solutions. In every case, the council ruled that the aggressors were acting within their cultural rights. The chamber was silent now. Even the most warlike species seemed uncomfortable with the list being displayed. Admiral, said Tekela carefully. What do you want? Chen smiled, and several representatives unconsciously stepped back from their communication screens. What we have always wanted, our peace. The difference is that we are no longer willing to accept a peace that exists only for some species, at the expense of others. And if we refuse your terms? General Kexta demanded. General, you misunderstand. We are not offering terms. We are explaining the new reality. The display changed again, showing detailed schematics of weapons technology that was decades beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Stealth systems that could make entire fleets invisible, shields that could absorb the combined firepower of a dozen dreadnoughts, weapons that could disable planetary defense grids from light years away. For 30 years, humanity has maintained military capabilities sufficient to defend Earth from any conceivable threat. We have shared our medical technology, our agricultural techniques, and our peaceful sciences with the galaxy. We have not shared our weapons technology, our tactical knowledge, or our strategic capabilities. The question, Chen continued, is whether the galaxy will continue to mistake our restraint for weakness. In the depths of Zephyrian space, Admiral Kexavol was learning firsthand what human restraint actually meant. His flagship, the ZFS Dominator, had been one of the most feared vessels in the galaxy. Its weapons could level cities. Its armor could withstand direct hits from antimatter warheads. Its crew of 2,000 warriors had never known defeat. Now it drifted powerless in space, its systems disabled by 3 human ships that had appeared from nowhere and vanished just as quickly. Damage. Report, he ordered. For the 10th time in an hour, all weapon systems are offline and cannot be repaired, his chief engineer reported. The humans didn't destroy the weapons. They somehow altered the molecular structure of the focusing crystals. Engineering says it would be easier to build new weapons than to fix these. Communications? We can receive messages but cannot transmit. The humans have placed some kind of feedback loop in our communication array. Any attempt to send a signal results in a system overload. Engines? The fusion reactors are functional, but the magnetic containment fields have been adjusted to prevent engine ignition. Again, the humans didn't break anything out, they just made it impossible to use. Kexavol stared at his tactical display. His mighty warship had been reduced to a helpless hulk without a single casualty. None of his crew was injured. All life support systems functioned perfectly. They had food, water, and air for months. They simply could not fight, communicate, or leave. Sir, his communications officer said quietly, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. The image that appeared was Captain Zhang of the UES Phantom. She stood in what appeared to be a standard human bridge, but Kexavol could see the impossible tactical displays behind her screens showing the positions and capabilities of every Zephyrian ship in real time. Admiral Kexavol, Zhang said pleasantly, I trust your crew is comfortable? What do you want? Kexavol growled. To talk. Your ship's computer systems have been recording this conversation. The data will be transmitted to Zephyrian High Command when rescue ships arrive. I want to make sure they understand exactly what happened here. You attacked us without provocation. Admiral, your fleet was en route to attack the final revelation came not through battle or diplomacy, but through silence. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of Luna Base, watching displays that showed the most comprehensive military operation in human history. Every Zephyrian military installation had been neutralized. Every aggressive fleet had been disabled. Every weapons platform that could threaten civilian populations had been rendered harmless. And now the humans simply stopped. Admiral, Commander Torres reported, all Terran Defense Force units are holding position as ordered. No further military action against any galactic species. Casualties? 0 enemy dead, Admiral. 1,437 injured, all receiving medical treatment from our ships. 17,000 military personnel disabled and awaiting pickup by their respective governments. Chen nodded. It had been the most effective military campaign in galactic history, and it had been accomplished without killing a single enemy soldier. Open a channel to all galactic governments simultaneously. The communication would reach every species in known space within hours. Chen had chosen her words carefully. This message would determine whether the galaxy moved toward peace or plunged into a war that would make the Zephyrian conflict look like a minor disagreement. Leaders of the galactic community, she began. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force. As of this moment, human military operations against all species have ceased. She paused, letting that statement sink in across dozens of worlds. For the past 30 days, humanity has demonstrated capabilities that we have kept hidden for 3 decades. We have shown that our medical ships can become warships, our peaceful colonies can become military bases, and our defensive fleets can project power across the galaxy. The tactical displays behind her showed the true scope of human military preparation. Weapons platforms hidden in asteroid fields, cloaked monitoring stations in every major system, defense grids that could protect entire sectors from invasion. We have shown you these capabilities for one reason, so that you understand what we were protecting you from. The display changed to show deep space, sensor readings from the galactic rim, ships moving in formations that no known species used, energy signatures that matched no technology in any database. 18 months ago, our deep space monitoring stations detected evidence of a massive fleet approaching from beyond the galactic edge. The ships are unlike anything in our databases. Their technology appears to be several centuries beyond current galactic standards. Their intentions are unknown, but their course suggests they are heading for the most populated systems in the galaxy. Across dozens of worlds, military leaders and government officials stared at displays showing a threat they had never imagined. Humanity has been preparing for this threat for 30 years, Chen continued. Every medical ship we built contained military conversion capabilities. Every peaceful colony was designed to serve as a military base if necessary. Every diplomatic mission gathered intelligence on galactic military capabilities. We were not planning to conquer the galaxy. We were planning to defend it. The chamber of the Galactic Council was in chaos. Representatives from 47 species shouted questions and accusations while Speaker Varth tried desperately to maintain order. "How long have you known about this threat?" demanded the hegemony representative. "Why didn't you warn us?" asked the corporate collective delegate. "What makes you think we can trust you now?" snarled General Kexta. Admiral Chen's image remained calm on the main display. "We detected the first signals 32 years ago. We warned the Council 31 years ago. The official response was that human claims of external threats were unsubstantiated paranoia designed to increase military spending." The chamber fell silent as representatives checked their historical records. "Since then," Chen continued, "we have presented evidence of the approaching threat to the Council 17 times. Each time our warnings were dismissed. The last time we raised the issue, we were told that human fear-mongering was becoming disruptive to galactic harmony." Tequila of the Wise Ones stepped forward. "Admiral, if this threat is real, why are you revealing it now? Why not continue preparing in secret?" Chen's expression softened slightly. "Because, Ambassador, the approaching fleet is larger than our original estimates. Our intelligence now suggests we are facing an invasion force of over 10,000 ships. Humanity cannot defend the galaxy alone." The tactical display updated to show projected fleet movements. The unknown ships would reach the outer systems within 6 months. If their intentions were hostile, the casualties would be measured in the trillions. "What do you propose?" asked Speaker Varth. "The same thing we have always proposed: a cooperation. Humanity will share our military technology with any species willing to contribute to a unified defense. We will provide tactical training to officers from all member species. We will coordinate a defense that uses the best capabilities of every civilization in the galaxy." "And if we refuse?" General Kexta asked. Chen's smile was sad rather than threatening. "Then humanity will defend human space and leave the rest of the galaxy to face the threat alone. We tried to build a peaceful civilization based on cooperation and mutual aid. That civilization rejected us. Now we are offering one last chance to build something better." In the weeks that followed, the galaxy faced a choice that would define its future. Some species, led by the Zephyrian Empire, refused all cooperation with humanity. They declared that they would rather face unknown aliens than trust the Deathworlders who had humiliated their fleets. Others, led by the Wise Ones and the Andromedan Federation, began immediate negotiations with human representatives. They were shocked to discover that humanity had been holding back not just militarily, but scientifically as well. Human medical technology could extend lifespans by centuries. Human agricultural techniques could feed entire planets with minimal resources. Human energy systems could power civilizations without environmental damage. All of it had been available for decades. None of it had been shared because the galaxy had shown no interest in human ideas unless they could be exploited for profit, but the most dramatic change came from an unexpected source. 3 days after Chen's announcement, the corporate collective sent a delegation to Luna, Basie, the insectoid beings who had spent decades treating humans as useful laborers now found themselves requesting an alliance. "We have analyzed the threat data. their primary delegate explained. Our computers estimate a 97% probability that these unknown ships represent a hostile force. Our own military capabilities are insufficient to mount effective resistance. Admiral Chen met with the delegation personally. What are you offering? Complete economic cooperation, access to our manufacturing capabilities, integration of our logistics networks with human command structures. The delegate paused. We also offer a formal apology for our previous treatment of human personnel. Accepted, Chen said simply. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy as species that had never worked together found themselves preparing for a threat that dwarfed all their previous conflicts. Human shipyards began producing vessels that combined the best technology from dozens of civilizations. Zephyrian armor plating was integrated with human weapon systems. Andromedan sensors were paired with corporate collective manufacturing techniques. Even the hegemony's biological sciences were incorporated into defensive planning. But the real transformation was not technological. It was psychological. For the first time in galactic history, species were working together as equals rather than competitors. The threat of external invasion had accomplished what 30 years of human diplomacy could not. Unity. The first test came sooner than expected. A scout force of 20 unknown ships entered the galactic rim 6 weeks ahead of schedule. They moved through the outer systems with casual disregard for local defenses, scanning everything and communicating with no one. The response was swift and coordinated. Human stealth ships shadowed the intruders, while Andromedan sensor networks tracked their movements. Corporate collective manufacturing centers produced specialized equipment, while Zephyrian tactical units prepared for engagement. The aliens are, for they were truly alien. Unlike anything in the galactic databases, seemed surprised by the level of coordination they encountered. Their ships were powerful, but they faced a united galaxy that knew they were coming. The brief engagement that followed was not a battle, but a demonstration. The unknown ships found themselves surrounded by a fleet representing every major species in the galaxy. Human weapons disabled their engines while alien boarding parties secured their vessels. No shots were fired in anger. No lives were lost unnecessarily. When the aliens were brought before a joint council of galactic representatives, their leader spoke in a language that required advanced translation algorithms to understand. We came to harvest your civilization, as we have harvested dozens of others. We expected to find divided warring species that could be conquered individually. The aliens' form was difficult to focus on, as if it existed partially in normal space. Instead, we find unity, cooperation, mutual defense.